Jerk chicken has a lot of ingredients. There are 4 core ingredients that you have to have. Spring onions, thyme, allspice, and Scotch bonnet. I only have little red chilies during this lockdown period, so we have to use what we have. All the other ingredients I'm going to run down, not in any specific order, but you can check www.cheekydibbles.com for the full recipe and instructions. Cloves, garlic, coriander, cinnamon, brown sugar, soy sauce. This will seem unusual, but it'll give it really amazing umami quality. Pureed pineapple. You can use pineapple juice if you don't have pineapples. And just a small nub of ginger. And then of course, about 2 pounds of chicken. We've got thighs and drums here. That was the hard part, collecting all the ingredients. The easy part is when we blitz everything together. So we're gonna cut our green onion just to get rid of the ends, our handy garbage bowl. And we just wanna give this a rough chop. We're going with the thyme. And this is all gonna get blitzed up, so allspice. This is gonna be quite spicy. Just gonna go in with 1. I got my cloves, garlic, coriander, cinnamon. Oh, it smells like cookies. Brown sugar, soy sauce, my pineapple puree, and my ginger. And then we're gonna go in with about half a cup of oil. And this is gonna help it blitz so that it doesn't get stuck. Got really dry ingredients in here. I love to make jerk shrimp tacos. I'm gonna go with just a touch of salt and pepper. We're gonna come right back after we blitz this. Everything's pureed now. We're gonna pour this over our chicken just a little after I salt and pepper everything. I wanna get a really good coating of seasoning on my chicken before the marinade. And this will marinate for 3 hours, 2 hours. The longer the better. Overnight would be amazing. We're gonna let this go and marinate and make our coleslaw. This has been marinating overnight. If you have 2-3 hours, that's fine, but the longer the better. I need to smell this. Oh, it's so good. I get the spices and the smokiness. I don't even miss the lime or the Scotch bonnet, which is so important in jerk, I know. But this is quarantine cooking, so we have to use what's available to us. We're gonna let this sit in room temperature for about 15 to 20 minutes. I wanna let the chill off of the meat that's straight out of the refrigerator. Once it hits the heat, it'll seize because it's still too cold, and what you end up with is a tough piece of chicken. You want a tender piece of chicken, let it sit in room temperature for a few minutes. In the meantime, we're gonna make our gorgeous creamy coleslaw. This is great to cool down all the spices and all the heat from the jerk chicken. We've got 1 small cabbage. My recipe at www.cheekydibbles.com calls for red cabbage as well. It's because it's a great contrast between the green, but I don't have that. I'm using red gala apple instead for the contrast. In the recipe, it calls for Granny Smith apples because that's green. You've got the red, it's a gorgeous confetti, but we're using what we have. I've got some red onion here for that zesty punch and a small carrot. But before I treat this, I want to get to my dressing where all the flavor is going to come in. Got some mayo, some cream cheese, and this is my substitute for sour cream that I don't have. Some Greek yogurt, granny mustard, brown sugar, white vinegar. I love white vinegar because it's a lot more pungent. If you want something a little bit more delicate, you can use apple cider vinegar. Just please don't use balsamic vinegar because that'll just color all your vegetables and it'll be this muddy, gross color that you don't want. celery seeds. So underrated. It's so good. It's very earthy and very sort of has this bitter note, but it's very grassy as well. It is from the celery plant. When you have celery that stays beyond its harvest period and you allow it to blossom and grow flowers, it'll dry up and the buds will become seeds, and you can harvest the seeds and use them in brines to pickle something or in stews. This is great in salad dressings and in potato salads, so I use it a lot. And then just a little bit of garlic. And this dressing is so good because it's very cooling and it'll help offset the heat from the jerk chicken. So I love this recipe. Greek yogurt. Get my mustard. A really nice pop of color as well. Brown sugar. Vinegar. And actually, before I go ahead, I want to give my seeds a quick chop. I could rub them in between my palms just to waken them up. You know, spices and herbs sit in bags, especially the dried stuff, for a very long time. You want to waken up. It's almost like blooming them when you put it in a pan and have the heat hit it. I'm going to add my salt and pepper. And I want to be generous with my salt and because I am going to add a lot of veggies in there. And because vegetables are full of water, a lot of it is going to dilute the sauce. So I actually tend to make a lot more than usual, so I can add a bit more as needed. I really like the specs. I'm going to give this a quick taste. The cream cheese works actually. It's very nice. I'm going to set this aside. And I want to peel off the outer layers of the cabbage. That's where you sort of get the scruffy parts. Maybe it's a little tough. And I'm going to cut this in quarter. And I'll leave this other half actually to make sauerkraut now that I have celery seeds. And I want to take the core out. This can be a little tough. And I just want to cut it into thin strips. You can use a mandolin if you want. I can't find my mandolin. With my apple, just cutting off any parts that are a bit bruised. And this is a very rustic coleslaw. You can, if you want, cut your apple into very thin matchstick strips. Always like the combination of fruit and veg. Just like some people like fruit and nut and some people don't. I'm one of those. And now my carrot. I don't feel the need to peel it because there's a lot of nutrients in the skin, so I just want to get off the rough ends. And I will cut my carrots into small matchsticks, or as small as I can anyway. And you just want to cut them thinly this way, and then get them as thin as possible. I'm going to add a touch of garlic in there. I like to puree my garlic when I come back from shopping so that I always have it on hand. It's easy and accessible. Now I'll puree a little bit of onion right into my bowl so that it catches everything and I don't make a mess. One of the first Jamaicans were South American and maroon slaves. They would hide from the British in the mountains and hunt wild pigs. Because of the temperature, no refrigeration, they would collect these wild spices and herbs in order to preserve the meat and dig holes under the ground and create these ovens to smoke their meat and then hide the smoke with piles of wood and pimento leaves. And over time, this became such a popular way of cooking and preserving meat. It wasn't long until there were jerk shacks everywhere, and it started in Boston Beach where people would just congregate and gather to enjoy this amazing dish. So I've got red onions in there. I'm going to collect some from the back of the grater and give everything a good mix. I'm going to set this aside and prepare the jerk chicken. So I'm going to turn my heat to medium-high and I get a really good sear. I want hot pan, cold oil so that my pan doesn't stick. I want a generous coating in there. Skin side down. And I don't want to crowd my pan. This is bone in, so it's going to take a little longer. I'm going to let that go and not move it. It's very tempting though. This is the color you're used to seeing for jerk chicken. This is the caramelization from all the brown sugar and pineapple and all the different spices. It really smells delicious. Oh, I can't wait to dig into this. Turn my heat off. I'm going to cut a little bit of scallions just to top it. Get my coleslaw in there. So creamy. And a good handful of spring onions. I've been craving jerk chicken for a really long time. I always love hearing the crispiness of the skin. It's smoky and I get the sweetness from the fruit. I love the apple and the coleslaw. So many textures and flavors just hitting all over your mouth. I'd love some plantains right now. Rice and beans.